how do the things that Peter say resonate to you, or what are some of the strategies you employ when you're thinking about partnering with groups?
I think the one that resonates more than anything else is the reality of how long it takes to build those partnerships in order to align with an ITB funding strategy on the part of a defence prime. So I mean that's the one I would take straight out of the gate, and I've seen that from both sides because I was responsible for doing that when I was working with Springboard. On the academic innovation side as well. So it really does take a long time. And it's because you're building trust. And that's, it's not just trust in you as an individual, it's also trust, talking from an SMB's perspective, it's trust in the fact that your organization can deliver what it says it can deliver. And you've got to sort of really build that side of the partnership up really effectively over a long period of time. But the rewards are great. And I'd also sort of, the one thing I'd reflect on more than anything else, and I think it comes back to some of your opening comments when we were starting the discussion, Greg, and that's the depth of expertise that we have here in Canada. People genuinely don't get it. Canada is leading the world in spatial computing. Microsoft moved the majority of their workforce in spatial computing from the US to Canada. That's not their global headquarters because they'll still retain that down in the US, but most of the work's being done out of Vancouver. That's just testament in itself. And then when you look at all of the small and medium businesses that are in this space, the ones that are ploughing their own pathways, they're all there in a way which really sort of reflects, I think, the genuine Canadian approach to innovation. And an understanding that mixed reality and augmented reality and spatial computing is part of the future. And that all aligns with the Government of Canada's key industrial capabilities. So if you take any one of the groups that we work with in defence and look at the end use cases, they line up easily against at least 6 of the key industrial capabilities. And if you can go to a defence prime and say, look, key industrial capabilities, I know they're not the overriding principle or the overriding function of an ITB play, but they're important because this is what the Canadian Armed Forces are saying that they need. That's where they want to see the innovation. And again, in that context of defence, which ITBs are all inextricably linked to almost, that aspect is really important. And having an understanding, and I'm going to come to another point which is pretty important in a moment. Having that understanding of what the end user needs is really important. And what's really benefited as a company is not just only having me as a veteran in that sense, but we've at one point 25% of our workforce were veterans, and they're able to speak to that user, that person, that guy or that girl who's going to use augmented mixed reality when they're tired, they're wet, they're hungry, they're under pressure to do a job effectively. They're not 100% certain that the information that they're getting is correct because they've heard it from various places, speaking to sensed data. And having that understanding of that individual, I think, is really key when you're starting to build that relationship up and say, look, we've got a proposal. We think that it's something that aligns with Maze's group. And what we've got this expert input into it, which says this is something that soldiers, sailors, or airmen in the Canadian Armed Forces would find of real benefit, and it lines up against key industrial capabilities. And we're going to be working with Simon Fraser University and the University of New Brunswick to create the IP. And it speaks to that sophistication of how you approach the primes that Peter mentioned. Go to them with a plan and say, this is what we've got. And if it works and they're interested, that's great. If it doesn't, the one thing I've had to learn is that, and this is just, again, it's just a reflection of my character, is you can only knock on the door a number of times. If somebody's not interested, they're not interested, you need to move on. But somebody somewhere will really understand what it is that you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. And then finally, the last thing I would say is MyTax is a phenomenal multiplier on top of that. So if people do come into this and are looking for teams that are going to really make the maximum benefit of one, the technology opportunity that we've got, but also the ITB opportunity we've got. Then once you've got an ITB on board, then using MyTax, which again just sort of doubles the impact within the organisations, the educational organisations that you work with, is really significant as well. And they're a great group to work with and very well aligned with an awful lot of the tech areas that we want to exploit in augmented and mixed reality. So that's it. I know that's a big answer. I've probably rambled on a little bit there, but there's a lot of good things coming out of this discussion, hopefully for everybody who's listening.